Huge thanks to Anker for sponsoring today's video. Alright, I think we're all set, so let's put Windows 3.1 on this thing, shall we? Alright guys, well I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, be sure to- No. Okay, I'm not doing that to you guys again. Hello everybody, and welcome back to another video. Now in today's episode, yes, you read the title correctly, we're going to be installing Windows 3.1 on my iPhone 11, which as you can see is running MS-DOS. Well, okay, it's an MS-DOS emulator, it's DOSBox, and it's all thanks to a really awesome application called iDOS2, which unfortunately is not in the App Store anymore. And because of that, I think it's important for me to give you a little backstory before we get to the main event, which we will get to, don't worry, but let me just give you a little bit of information about iDOS2. So iDOS is actually nothing new. It's been around for over 10 years now. The application was first released back on October 26th, 2010, and it was live in the App Store for a whopping 4 hours. Yeah, until Apple said, wait a second, and promptly yanked the application from the App Store. The main reason for that was this application utilized iTunes file sharing, which in itself is not a bad thing at all. It's actually a feature, but because of the nature of what iDOS was, this essentially allowed people to run code that wasn't reviewed by Apple, that code being DOS games and applications. In fact, some people even found out that the application gave you access to view iOS's file system, like the file structure and everything. It was only read access, but still. Now, I'm sure some of you are going, well, okay, just remove iTunes file sharing and everything will be great, right? Well, yeah, but no, not exactly, because yes, you could remove iTunes file sharing, the developer could remove that from the application, but then you wouldn't be able to do anything with it because you wouldn't be able to share any files with the emulator to be able to run DOS games or applications. So the only thing you could do is stare at the C prompt like we're doing right now. And that was no fun, right? But the developer had a little bit of a workaround. What the developer did in the next release, which happened a couple months later on January 19th, 2011, that version of iDOS removed iTunes file sharing, but it included a few shareware versions of some DOS games to allow you to do something with it. And that was great, but Apple didn't like that either because they said to the developer that unless you own the rights to the games or you developed the games yourself, you can't publish them in this application even though they were shareware copies. So that version of the app got taken down as well. And then the developer just finally caved in and removed both of those features from the application and re-released it a little while later to where it was just a DOS emulator that you couldn't really do anything with. And it remained in the App Store for a while in that state until September 19th, 2020, when the developer decided to re-enable file sharing through an update, which surprisingly got approved by Apple. So perhaps they changed their mind about this whole thing. Perhaps they were opening up a little bit and allowing emulators to do this and everything was going to be great, right? Nope, because less than a year later, after the developer published an update to iDOS containing nothing but bug fixes, Apple sent over a really nice email that read, "Upon reevaluation, we found that your app is not in compliance with the App Store review guidelines. Specifically, your app executes iDOS package and image files and allows iTunes file sharing and file support for importing games. Executing code can introduce or change features or functionality of the app and allows for downloading of content without licensing." So just like that, we're back to square one. And this time around, the developer made it clear that removing file sharing was not on the table. It was something that the developer was not going to do. So the app was eventually removed. But luckily, the developer notified everybody that this was going to happen and encouraged people to download it while they could, which I did. I paid $5 for this application and it was totally worth it because we're using it to make this video today. Now, the inspiration for this video came in part from a couple of articles that got published a couple months ago where people were showing you how to install Windows 3.1 on an iPad, specifically an iPad, but it could have been done on any other iOS device that you could install this application on. And I believe that that is how Apple heard about this. I mean, of course, it was in the App Store, but I guess it just kind of slipped through the cracks. And once it was getting all this press, once a bunch of people were writing about it and downloading the app, Apple kind of discovered what had happened and then sent the developer that email and then pulled the application a little while later. But all of those articles and all those guides about installing Windows 3.1 on an iPad or another iOS device, they used image files. They just used floppy images. I mean, that's too easy. Who wants to do that, right? So today, we're up in the ante because we're going to be using real installation media, a real genuine copy of Windows 3.1. Okay, technically 3.11, but who cares? It's Windows 3.1, and that poses another challenge. How the heck do we do that? Now, I'm sure a ton of you are going, oh, I saw this video from LGR where he plugged in a USB floppy drive into his phone and everything worked great, right? Well, yeah, it worked great for him. He was using an Android phone. It turns out that using a USB floppy drive on an iPhone is not possible. Now, first of all, you have to get an adapter, a dongle, right? We're living that dongle life 2021. You got to get one of these wonderful things, a Lightning to USB camera adapter. Now, there are third-party ones all over Amazon, but your mileage may vary with those. But this is the official Apple one, and I went with this one because I thought, oh, it'd be simple. All you have to do is we're just going to unbox this here. We're going to take our wonderful, overpriced, this thing's $30 for this stupid cable, okay? You gotta plug this into your phone here, and then we're gonna plug the floppy drive into the USB port, the female USB port here on the end. We get this notification that says, USB floppy drive, this accessory requires too much power. I tried using a powered USB hub, I tried using a different USB floppy drive that I had, but the fact of the matter is, no matter what USB floppy drive you try, you're not going to get it to work with this dongle right here. And that's because this dongle does not support the USB device class that floppy drives utilize. The Lightning to USB camera adapter is compatible with USB cameras that support Picture Transfer Protocol, PTP, or mass storage class devices, which USB floppy drives are not mass storage class devices. They have their own class. So that is, again, not supported with this adapter right here. So then I thought, okay, maybe it'll be supported with this one right here. This is Apple's Lightning to USB 3 camera adapter, which costs a beautiful $39. I mean, are you kidding me? $39 for this stupid thing? And the worst part that it just infuriates me, there's no Apple stickers with this. I mean, come on. Look at this. You get this nice box that's like, okay, you get this warranty thing, a 1-year limited warranty, and you get the same instruction manual. No Apple stickers anywhere. And of course, it turns out, you open this up right here, look what it says. Lightning to USB 3 camera adapter is compatible with USB cameras that support Picture Transfer Protocol, PTP, or mass storage class devices. The same exact thing. So, you can use this one all day long with one of these USB floppy drives, and it's not gonna work either. Okay, well, there is one really great thing about this dongle right here, and that is the fact that you can charge your phone while you have a USB device connected to it. And hey, why not charge your device 3 times faster than what you would get with one of these by using Anker's Nano Pro? I'm sure most of you know who Anker is. I certainly do because I've been using their products for years, which is why I had no problem accepting a sponsorship deal from them. The Anker Nano Pro is their latest charger, and it's packed with everything you need to get your devices charged up quickly and easily. A single USB-C port on the front means you'll instantly be able to use it with a wide variety of devices, and with fast charging built in, you can expect them to charge up much quicker. By the time you're watching this, I'd have gotten back from a trip I took out to California to capture some footage for a large video project I'm working on. But past me is still packing for that trip, and you can bet that one of these will end up in my travel bag. Something like this is a necessity for me, a compact wall wart. Yes, that's what you can call these things, that charges up your phone quickly. And the best part, it costs only $19.99. That's literally almost the same price as Apple's charger. You know, this one that doesn't have fast charging, and plus, these Anker ones come in colors. So What more do you need to know? Click the link down below and pick up one for yourself today. And huge thanks to Anker for sponsoring this video and for helping me to pay for all these stupid adapters. At this point, I had spent $60 on these stupid cables, and I said I have absolutely no way of getting this to work. That is until I came across this pretty awesome video from the YouTuber Will It Work, where he demonstrated his iPhone being able to read the contents of a floppy disk. And he explained how he did it. What he did was get one of these right here. This, my friends, is a super disc. No, not the Sony Nintendo thing. This is actually a pretty neat piece of history because this right here is a super floppy format. Now, you probably know what the zip drive is, right? The zip drive and the zip disks. That was a super floppy format. And that was easily the most successful out of all of these formats, but there were other ones, and the super disc was another format, though this was the drive, but it read LS120 discs, and they were very similar to zip disks. They were a similar capacity, 120 megabytes. The zip drive started at 100 megabytes, so it was a similar capacity. And, you know, compare that to a 1.44 megabyte high-density floppy diskette, you could hold a lot more data on these, and that's why these were pretty popular. But the super disk, at least here in the US and North America, did not perform very well, but it works great for our purposes because it turns out that not only can these devices read LS120 disks, they can also read standard high-density floppy diskettes. Now you might say, okay, how on earth does that help us? Well, these drives here, unlike the USB floppy drives, utilize the USB mass storage device class. So that means that you can plug this into one of these adapters and plug it into the iPhone, and the iPhone is able to read the contents on the disk. We're basically tricking the iPhone here into thinking that this is just a standard regular old USB flash drive when it is in fact reading the contents of a floppy diskette. Pretty cool, right? The only problem is this one I bought for I think $60 off of eBay. You see that right there? That's not a USB port. Okay, so I thought no problem, we can just use some conversion technology. Yes, the Computer Clan. They're pretty great, by the way. I've collabed with Ken a few times, but anyways, yeah, so this is an adapter that came included with this drive right here, which has a USB end. So I thought, okay, we can just plug this in, no problem. Okay, so let's plug it in here. Nothing happens. I can eject the disk. I can put it back in, which actually is not a good sign, by the way, and I'll explain why later on, but I can do this all day. Nothing's going to show up. Now, we're in the Files app, and when you have a USB drive connected through one of these adapters, it's supposed to show up in here. And let me grab a USB flash drive to show you what I mean. Got a USB flash drive here. Unplug it. Plug this in. Make sure it's plugged in the right way. And watch what happens. Boom. There you go. No name. It shows up. So that's not happening with this here. So I thought, okay, what the heck's going on? Well, then I tried to use this one here. I thought perhaps maybe this one would work. In fact, in the video from Will It Work, he used one of these. Well, it turns out that I had made a bit of an oversight. You have to get one of these super disk drives, which I also purchased off of eBay, and this right here specifically is the model SD USB M3, meaning that it's got a USB-B port on the back. So you don't have to use any adapters because all you gotta do is get one of these cables right here, a USB-B to USB-A, and there it is, MSWin 3112, which is disk number 2 of this Windows 3.11 installation disk set. We can go over to IDOS here, and I've got a Bluetooth keyboard just to make this a little bit easier for me, and we can, well actually the first thing we have to do is go to, let's rotate this back here, so you can tap on the floppy disk drive icon here, and you want to go to folder. This is how you mount stuff. You could type out the command manually, but it's a lot easier just doing it through the graphical user interface. And right here, you get the option to choose what folder you want to mount. So in this case, we're going to mount this folder right here. And now you'll see it says that it's mounted as the D drive. So if we go to D here and type dir/w, we can see all the contents on the drive. All right, everybody. So I think it's just about time to begin the installation process. So we've got our 6 floppy diskettes right there. And before we can get into actually installing Windows 3.1, I do have to explain a couple of things. One thing I did notice about this drive, though, is it is a bit finicky and it doesn't always seem to read the contents of whatever disk is in the drive. I switched over to the Files app here because this is where, as you saw earlier, that iOS displays the USB devices if there are any plugged in to it. So right here under Locations, if we put in the floppy disk, we should theoretically see that come up. But the problem is that doesn't always happen, as you're going to see here. So the drive starts to sound like it's reading, and I can already tell that it's not. Now, what I was saying earlier about on the other drive, the fact that we were able to eject it when it was plugged into the phone, the reason I said that was a bad thing is because that's not normally supposed to happen. When you have the super disk plugged in to an Apple device, when you use an external drive, for example, Apple's external DVD drive, or even if you happen to have an older Mac with an internal DVD drive, there's no button to eject the disk. You have to do it from within the operating system. So you have to drag the disk icon on your desktop to the trash, which will then turn into the eject icon. I mean, I'm sure you guys know all this. I'm not going to explain it. Well, anyways, that's why this button doesn't work here, because the drive is expecting you to eject it from the software. The problem is we can't do that. There is no eject option on iOS here. Whenever we want to eject the disk, we can't just press this here. We have to either use a paper clip and manually do it, or just unplug the USB cable from the back, and then we're able to press the eject button. The other problem we're going to have is with the way that iOS handles USB devices. And just like that, we've got it mounted. But look very closely at what it says here. It says drive D is mounted as local directory, and then it lists the entire file path here. Now, this is fine, but it poses a problem when we go to change the disk in the drive, because notice how it includes the name of the disk currently in the drive. So when we go to change that and put in disk number 2, which is called MSWin 3112 instead of 3111, it's not going to be able to find the files on it. Now, the reason it's behaving this way is because, again, it's not treating this disk drive as a floppy disk drive or any other drive that has a sort of removable storage. It's treating this as a regular USB hard drive. Because the disk is determining what the drive shows up as on iOS, putting in disk number 2 is going to change the name of the drive in iOS, which means that our mount is no longer going to work. So a way around this that I've discovered is to just have 6 different mounts. So we mount disk 1 through 6 as individual drives, and then as long as we make sure that the super disk drive is reading the floppy disk and that iOS can see the contents of that floppy disk in the file browser, we can then go to that mount in DOS here, or when we're in the Windows 3.1 setup, because the whole reason why this is a problem is because once we're in the setup, we can't leave, go back to DOSBox here, change the mount, and go back into setup. Once we quit, and then that would make it impossible to complete the setup. So we've mounted disk number 1 here, and now we're going to eject it, and let's see if we can just put in disk number 2. Let's see if I was right and this just doesn't read at all. So we put in disk number 2. Nope, I can already tell it's not reading it at all. Alright guys, well there was originally a lot of footage here that I decided to cut out, and trust me, you didn't miss much, because it was basically just me trying to get this frickin' super disk drive to read the contents of these 6 floppy diskettes. And like I said earlier, this thing is on the fritz, and it's really a stroke of luck if the drive decides to work and read the contents of the disks, because sometimes it doesn't, most of the time it doesn't, sometimes it does, and it's just, it was just getting really frustrating. So I was thinking, well, that other super disk drive that I have, the blue one, or at least the one with that blue plastic piece on the front, it doesn't work with the iPhone, but it works totally fine. I mean, the drive itself reads a floppy diskette every single time, no problem at all, on one of my old Macs. So I was thinking, I was looking at both of these things, and I'm like, well, they're both the same size. I wonder if we could just take them apart and swap the actual drive itself. And that's exactly what I did. I took both of them apart, and sure enough, they use the exact same drive, like the actual part itself. At least they appear to. They look extremely similar. They have the same sticker on the front. Just the one that isn't working is newer because the one with a direct USB-B to USB-A, that drive is a newer variant. So all I did was unplug the boards from the backs of both drives and then take the board from the broken drive and connect it to the good drive and reassembled it back in the case. And sure enough, it worked totally fine. We got power, and drive already sounds better. Disc number 3. Oh yeah, that's working. Oh my gosh. Okay. That made my life so much easier. The disc order is going to go D, E, F, G, H, I. Right down the alphabet. Isn't that nice? So, okay, we're going to unplug, and I found you have to unplug power as well. Plug power back in, and then once it does its initial startup process here, and there's no more drive activity, we can eject it. We're going to put back in disk number 1. So we're in the D drive now, and I can type dir/w, get a list of all of our files, and I can type setup. And it's reading off the drive. This is the moment of truth, everybody. Oh my gosh, there it goes. Welcome to setup. So we're going to press enter. We're going to go with, let's see here. Let's just go with Express setup. That's fine. Oh, you know what? I don't think Windows, yeah, see, it doesn't ask you, like, to change the drive letter. So it says insert disk 2 into drive D. Our only hope is for us to put in disk 2 and just see if it can recognize it on the E drive, because that is what it's mounted as in DOSBox. So we'll put in disk 2 here. Oh, this was a complete oversight on my part. I thought the whole time that it was going to ask you, like, oh, please insert the disk 2, and then it gives you like a file path that you can change. Go to files here. It's in. No, it wants it in drive D, so it's not going to work. I thought this entire time that I was going to be able to pick a specific directory. You know what? I wonder, does custom setup? Oh, wait a second. Oh, you have to choose custom. So it copies the files from disk 1, and then it gives us this prompt that says, where is disk 2 located? So all we have to do is swap the disks out here. Okay, set disk 1 aside, put disk number 2 in, and connect it back up to the iPhone. If I can find the port here, there it is. And now we just wait for it to finish reading, and we type E. That was it. All you had to do was pick custom setup. See, I knew I wasn't going crazy. I was like, I thought that was an option. And it was, you just have to do custom setup. Yeah, it's been a little while since I've installed Windows 3.1. Okay, so now we do the same thing with disk 3. So we'll unplug the data, unplug the power, plug the power back in, wait for the drive to initialize, pop out, disk number 2, put in disk number 3, reconnect it to the iPhone, and now we do the F drive. And at this point, it should launch us into the graphical setup. So here it is. And we're going to type in Michael, if I can spell properly. Michael, there we go. And oh yeah, that's right, disk 6 does not get used in this case, but there you go. We're going to, yeah, make all modifications for us. That's fine. Okay, we're just gonna skip the tutorial, so that'll be Alt-K or Alt-S. Alt-R to reboot, or we can just move the mouse over here and reboot. So we've restarted the app, so all we should have to do now is go to CD Windows, Win, and there we go. Oh my gosh, guys, it's it's one thing getting Windows 3.1 installed in here, but it's another thing using actual floppy diskettes. I just find this so hilarious. And we did it, guys. We did it. We ran into a couple bumps in the road along the way, as you saw, but I am so happy that we were able to do this successfully. So here we are. We're in Windows 3.1. We can do whatever you want to do in Windows 3.1. Do you want to open up the file manager? You can do that. You can browse around. Let's open up some calendar. Let's get some calendar going. Let's open up, gosh, what else do we want to do? I mean, can you tell I'm really excited? You know what? Let's open up, let's go to accessories here, and let's write us a, oh, we're gonna go into paintbrush as well. So I can write, hello world, this document was typed on Windows 3.11 on my iPhone 6S, or 6S. Yeah, I'm thinking of the other video that I was just making. Let's go to paintbrush here, and oh, this will be hilarious. So, okay, we're gonna select, you know what, we're gonna make some super cool art here, man. This is just so, oh no, that's not what I want to do. This is just so hilarious. Like, I just can't get over. I mean, like I said, it's one thing running Windows 3.1 on your iPhone, but it's another thing to install it from floppy diskettes. And you guys have seen, I mean, this is really bad. I have no idea what I'm really drawing here. I'm trying to kind of, because you can tap, I was just tapping down twice, which registered as a press and hold, like that. There you go. You can also, if you go up here to this menu, you can turn on the mouse buttons down here, so left and right. So you could, if you want to, like, here's the pointer right here. We can grab this yellow, and we can hold down the left and then drag here. So we can do that too. But there you have it, guys. I mean, I'm just so happy that we got this working. This is just hilarious, and I think it made for a pretty great video. So if you guys enjoyed it, and if you want to see more like it, well, maybe not quite like this one, but if you want more from me, more videos in this style, be sure to give this one a thumbs up and get subscribed down below. Turn on those notifications if you haven't already to get notified whenever I upload a new video, which I do multiple times every single week on this channel. And as always, guys, I want to thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.